Max pedaled up, dropped his bike, and knocked on the door of Clay Mahoney. He bent down to tie his shoes, and as he finished the second knot on his left shoe, the door flew open. Max, Clay's mother, stood over him wearing tight black pants and a small white t-shirt. "Today, yes," it said, over a black lycra shirt top. She was dressed like a competitive downhill skier. Behind her, an exercise video had been paused on the television. On the screen, three muscular women were reaching upward and rightward, desperate and grimacing for something far beyond the frame. "Is Clay home?" Max asked, standing up. "No, I'm sorry, Max, he's not." She was holding a large silver canister with a black handle, some sort of coffee mug, and while taking a sip from it, she looked around the front porch. "Are you here alone?" she asked. Max thought a second about this question, looking for a second meaning. Of course he was here alone. "Yep," he said. She had a face Max had noticed that always seemed surprised. Her posture and voice aimed at knowingness, but her eyes said, "Really? What? How is this possible?" "How'd you get here?" she asked. Another odd question. Max's bike was lying no more than 4 feet behind him, in plain sight. Could she not see it? "I rode," he said, jerking a thumb over his shoulder. Alone? She asked. "Yep," he said. This lady, he thought. "Alone?" she repeated. Her eyes had gone wide. Poor Clay. His mom was nuts. Max knew he should be careful about what he might say to a crazy person. Didn't crazy people need to be treated with great care? He decided to be very polite. "Yes, Miss Mahoney, I am alone," he said. He said the words slowly, carefully, maintaining eye contact all the while. "Your parents let you ride around on your own in December without a helmet?" This lady definitely had a problem grasping the obvious. It was obvious that Max was alone, and obvious that he had ridden his bike, and there was nothing on his head, so why ask about the helmet? She was delusional on top of it all. Or maybe functionally blind. "Yes, Miss Mahoney, I don't need a helmet. I live just down the block. I rode here on the sidewalk." He pointed down the street to his own house, which was visible from her door. Miss Mahoney put her hand on her forehead and squinted, like a castaway searching for the horizon for a rescue vessel. She dropped her hand, returning her eyes to Max and sighed. "Well, Clay is at his quilting class," she said. Max didn't know what a quilting class was, but it sounded a lot less fun than making icicle spears and throwing them at birds, which had been on Max's mind. "Well, okay. Thanks, Miss Mahoney. Tell him I came by," he said. He waved goodbye to Clay's crazy mom, turned, and got on his bike. He heard the Mahoney's door shut as he coasted away, but when he turned onto the sidewalk and turned toward his house, he found Miss Mahoney next to him, striding purposely, still holding her silver canister. "I can't let you go alone," she said, striding briskly alongside him. "Thanks, Miss Mahoney, but I ride alone every day," he said, pedaling cautiously and maintaining steady eye contact. Her weirdness had tripled and his heartbeat had doubled. "Not today, you don't," she said, grabbing for the seat of Max's bike. Now he was getting scared. This woman was not only nuts, but she was following him, grabbing at him. He picked up speed. He figured he could ride faster than she could walk, and he intended to do so. He was now standing on his pedals. She picked up her pace, still walking. Her elbows were flying left and right, her mouth a quick slash of determination. Was she smiling? Ha, she giggled. Fun. It was always the nuttiest people who smiled while doing the nuttiest things. This lady was far gone. Please, he said, now pedaling as fast as he possibly could. He almost hit a mailbox, the Chung's, the one bearing a large peace sign. This had caused great controversy in the neighborhood. Just let me go, he begged. Don't worry, she huffed, now at a full jog. I'll be here the whole way. How could he shake her? Would she follow him inside his own house? She was no doubt waiting to get him alone indoors so she could do something to him. She could knock him cold with the coffee canister. Or maybe she'd grab a pillow, pin him down, and suffocate him. That seemed more her style. She had the clear-eyed, efficient look of a murderous nurse. Now there was barking. Max turned to see that the Scola's dog had joined them, barking at Miss Mahoney and nipping her ankles. Miss Mahoney took little notice. Her eyes were bigger than ever. The exertion seemed to make her even more gleeful. Endorphins, she sang. Thanks, Max. Please, he said. What are you going to do to me? It was about 10 houses until his own. Keep you safe, she said, from all this. She waved her arm around, indicating the neighborhood that Max was born into and in which he had been raised. It was a quiet street of tall elms and oaks, ending in a cul-de-sac. Beyond the cul-de-sac was a wooden few acres, then the lake. Nothing nefarious or of note had ever happened on this street or in the town, or, for that matter, within 400 miles. Max swerved suddenly, leaving the sidewalk. He jumped the curb into the road. The road, Miss Mahoney gasped, as if he steered his bike into a river of molten lava. The road was empty now and was always empty, but soon she was right behind him, now running, again reaching for his seat. Max decided it was silly to go home. That's where she wanted him. He'd be trapped, and she'd finish him for sure. His only chance of escape would be the forest. He sped up again, giving himself enough room to turn around. He did a quick 180 and headed back towards the dead end, hoping to make it to the woods. Where are you going? She wailed. Max almost laughed. She wouldn't follow him into the woods, would she? He looked back and thought she lost a step or two. It wasn't long before she was sprinting at him. Man, she was fast. He was close to the road's end, almost at the trees. I won't let you out of my sight, she falsettoed. Don't worry. He jumped the curb again, eliciting a terrible howl from Miss Mahoney, and jumbled over the rough grass and snow. Soon he was quickly ducking under the first low branches of the tall white-mustached pines, weaving between the trunks. Max, she wailed, not the woods. He entered the forest and headed towards the ravine. Molesters, drugs, homeless, needles, she gasped. The ravine was up ahead, almost about 20 feet deep and 12 feet wide. A month earlier, over the gap, he put a wide bridge of plywood. If he could get to the gap, cross the bridge, and then pull the plank away in time, he might finally be free. Stop, she yelled. He swung his bike underneath him, left and right. He'd never ridden so fast. Even the Scola dog was having trouble keeping up. He was still yapping at the lady's heels. Look out, she screamed. The what do you call it? The gorge. Duh, he thought. He made it to the bridge, and again came a howl of incalculable terror. No! He rumbled quickly over the plank on the other side. He spun out, dropped his bike, and grabbed the plywood. She was almost upon him when he pulled the board free. The bridge fell into the ravine and crashed against the rocks below. She stopped short. "Man!" she yelled. She stood for a second, hands on hips, heaving. "How do you expect me to protect you when you're all the way over there?" Max thought of a few clever answers to this question, but instead said nothing. He mounted his bike again, in case Miss Mahoney decided to leap over the gap. She was far stronger and faster than he would have guessed, so he couldn't rule it out. At that moment, the Scolas dog, still running at full speed, chose to pass Miss Mahoney, jump over the ravine, and join Max. He flew effortlessly and landed on Max's side. He turned back to face her, then looked up at Max with a toothy grin and happy eyes, as if the two of them had together vanquished a common enemy. Max laughed, and when the dog began barking at the woman doubled over on the edge of the ravine, Max barked too. They both barked and barked and barked.